I'm Sharon Bill. I want to explain to you how I will be approaching the ABRSM Grade 6 Music Theory syllabus. And so I will be following this workbook which outlines all of the exercises which will be represented in the Grade 6 ABRSM Music Theory exam. This is the workbook that I will be using, and so you need to have one of these workbooks to work through every single exercise with me, and then this will prepare you for the ABRSM Grade 6 Music Theory exam. I want to explain how I'm going to work through each section which will be represented on the exam paper. There are 5 questions in all, and on questions 1 and 3 there is an option whether to choose 1A, 1B or 3A or 3B, and I want to explain how I'm going to work through this exam material with you. Starting with question 1A, and that is my choice, my preference for the actual exam. And so we will begin with question 1A, which requires us to allocate chords to a given melody. And in this first question, we get the first hints of music harmony, 4-part harmony, and the chords that you allocate will always imply a full 4-part harmony. And so this gives us the first introduction into the rules of 4-part harmony and the special little prescriptive progressions of chords which are new to this grade as well. I find that this is the easier and the quicker of the two. 1B we will look at later, and 1A is a good gentle introduction into the rules of harmony, because as we move on to question 2 we now move on to 4-part harmony with figured bass, and we look at all of the rules of 4-part harmony, and this is central to the whole paper. Pretty much all of the questions that you will be answering in the whole of grade 6 will all relate back to 4-part harmony questions to one degree or another. I absolutely love this subject. This is where we really just roll our sleeves up and dig deep into the topic of harmony and music theory. It's quite an absorbing topic and it is a little bit tricky, however it's so rewarding and so satisfying. It's like playing musical Sudoku, and so I will guide you step by step through these rules of 4-part harmony and how that applies to figured bass, looking at figured bass, which is really just an alternative way of writing chord allocations instead of using the Roman numeral system that we've become accustomed to. Moving on to question 3, this now is a question regarding composition. My preference is question 3A rather than 3B because for exam purposes it's very clear cut how we are going to approach this. We are told what to compose, how to compose it, how to modulate, exactly what they require for the exam. So the marking system is very, very clear and it relates to classical forms that we're quite comfortable with. However, although this is a composition question, this is not particularly asking for your compositional input. We are composing in the style of a given extract, and this is where, even though it's a composition question, it still implies harmony. Every melodic note that you write still implies a chordal harmony, and we are still referring back to all of the harmony topic that we've been discussing in the questions 1 and 2. Moving on to questions 4 and 5, these are very, very similar to the music in context questions that come in the back of the exam paper for grades 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. However, of course, it's much more complex. Question 4 is still very harmony related, looking at, say for example, a piano extract or a short ensemble extract, looking at harmony questions, looking at the way the music is composed. Question 5 again is similar to the music in context questions that we've become used to. However, this now relates to a full orchestral extract, and here we now call into question all that we've learned and more about the instruments of the orchestra, which instruments transpose, which instruments use which clef, we're going to be changing clef, we're going to be changing key. This is where we peel back the layers and look at what lies behind the composer's thoughts, and we dig deep into the nuts and bolts of what's going on in an orchestral score. It's absolutely fascinating. I suggest I will go through several of each question, and then we'll keep going round in question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just keep moving between the topics. I will then go back and rework question 1, now looking at question 1b, which again is allocating chords to a given melody. However, now we ourselves are required to write the figured bass and also add the bass line as a 2-part melody composition, where we are implying chords, writing a bass line to a given melody. And I don't suggest that that's perhaps the first choice for the exam, because there's a lot of work involved in that. However, it's principally the same, and so we will go through that, and then you do have that option should you want to take that question in the exam. I will then continue on to question 3, and we'll look at question 3b, which again is a composition. However, in this question, the alternative question leaves things very much to our own choice. We may or may not modulate as we wish, and the compositional style is much more freestyle, and we may get modal melodies, more abstract key structures, and very much a more vague outline of what is required. Although this does give us scope for a little more personal choice, nevertheless it is still composing in the style of a given extract. We must continue in the style of the original composition, but we have a little bit more of a vague idea of what is required before us, and so sometimes the key structure isn't obvious, and so I suggest that this is not the choice for the exam. I find that question 3a, the parameters are much more clear cut. We know exactly what we need to do. However, in question 3, I will still go through all of the exercises, and so that option will be open to you. Once you've done all the study and it comes to exam day, you'll have still had some practice, and you could choose that if you really wanted to. That's my plan. I'm in the last stages of preparation, and in the next week or 2 on my Patreon channel, these lessons will start becoming available to you. Get your pencil sharpened and we'll get studying.